I've always been sensitive to strong smells. Grew up with asthma, and it meant I had to be careful around perfumes and other fragrances. It wasn't just me, my mom had the same issue, so our house was always a scent-free zone. When I started working in promotions in the late 90s, I was relieved to find out that our city had started implementing scent-free policies in most public buildings due to a rise in environmental illness cases. Our promotions office was small but mighty, just 20 people working together to create marketing campaigns for local businesses. We were more than colleagues, we were a family. When I brought up my asthma during one of our team meetings, I discovered that several others had similar sensitivities. We took a vote and unanimously decided to make our office a scent-free zone. We put up signs everywhere, on the front door, in the break room, even in the bathrooms. Everyone respected the rule and our little workplace ran smoothly. Until she showed up. The new hire walked in on a Monday morning, and I knew we were in trouble before she even reached her desk. The cocktail of fragrances surrounding her was so strong it made my eyes water. It was like she'd bathed in every perfume sample from the department store. My co-worker with severe asthma, let's call her the marketing director since she handled all our major campaigns, immediately started wheezing. We rushed to help her while our office manager approached the new hire. The office manager explained our scent-free workplace policy to her, pointing out the signs posted everywhere, and asked her to wash off any fragrances immediately. The new hire acted apologetic, claiming she hadn't realized it was serious and promised to take care of it right away. We got the marketing director to the emergency room where they treated her asthma attack. She came back the next day ready to work, but so did the new hire, and somehow she smelled even stronger than before. The marketing director didn't even make it to her desk before another attack hit. This time it was bad enough that we had to call an ambulance. I confronted the new hire, reminding her about yesterday's warning about fragrances. She tried to argue that she wasn't wearing perfume, just body lotion. Our office manager had to explain that any scented products were prohibited, including lotions and sprays. Anything with a fragrance. The new hire complained that no one had specifically told her that, then stormed off, leaving a trail of artificial flowers and vanilla in her wake. The marketing director spent the night in the hospital, and we were all worried sick about her. Day 3 brought yet another challenge. The new hire showed up reeking of what seemed like an entire beauty salon's worth of products. Our department head intercepted her at the door. When questioned about what part of no sense she didn't understand, the new hire tried to argue that she was only wearing hairspray, insisting that the rule was just about perfume and lotion. Our department head had to spell it out for her. If it had any smell at all, it wasn't allowed in the office. He reminded her that she'd already sent a co-worker to the hospital twice, and this was her final warning. She needed to go home and not return until she was completely scent-free. The new hire exploded at this, claiming we couldn't dictate what product she used on her own body and insisting she had rights. Our department head shut that down quickly, explaining that we had the right to maintain a safe workplace and that her rights ended where they threatened someone else's health. He told her that HR would be contacting her about termination procedures. The new hire left in a huff, but the story doesn't end there. She tried filing a discrimination complaint with the labor board, claiming we were violating her rights. They dismissed her case immediately, especially after seeing the marketing director's hospital records. Even better, our company implemented an even stricter scent-free policy after this incident, making it part of the new hire paperwork that had to be signed before starting work. The marketing director recovered fully and came back to work a few days later. The office air stayed clean and fresh, and our team went back to being the happy, productive family we were meant to be. I've always considered myself a pretty laid-back person, especially during my college years. It was my first year at college, and I was returning from winter break. The flight had been delayed, and I was exhausted from carrying my big suitcase, backpack, and notebook case through multiple connections. All I wanted was to get back to my dorm and crash. Around 11 p.m., I was at the subway station looking for the elevator. I didn't want to risk causing a scene on the escalator with all my luggage. When I found it, there were already a few people waiting in line. a mother with a stroller, a man in a wheelchair, and couple others. That's when I heard the clicking of heels behind me, followed by huffing and shoving. A woman in an expensive-looking fur coat was pushing her way through the line, acting like she owned the place. I confronted her, telling her she needed to wait in line like everyone else who had been patiently waiting for the elevator. She responded with a disgusted look on her face, like I'd just insulted her entire ancestry. She rudely asked if we could read, dramatically pointing to a sign on the wall about giving priority to the elderly and disabled. Now, usually I'm super polite, but between the exhaustion and her attitude, something in me snapped. I sarcastically asked her which category she fell into, elderly or disabled. Her face turned red, and she started shaking with rage. She called me a rude, ignorant brat and demanded respect because of her age. I pointed out that while she was older than me, she wasn't elderly, and questioned her own respect for others, reminding her how she'd pushed past both a mother with a stroller and a man in a wheelchair. That's when things got wild. This woman, still in her fur coat, swung her handbag at me. I managed to step aside, but she ended up hitting another woman who was standing nearby, splitting her lip open. The other people in line started backing me up, calling her out on her behavior. Someone must have pressed the emergency button because a security guard showed up pretty quickly. Everyone started pointing at Karen, telling him what happened. The guard instructed her to come with him, but instead of complying, Karen cranked up the crazy to 11. She started cursing at everyone, especially the guard and me. When she tried to make a run for it in her heels, which was honestly hilarious to watch, the guard called for backup. More security guards arrived and had to practically drag her away, since the woman with the split lip wanted to press charges. They asked me to come along as a witness, and we took a different elevator up to the security office. The police arrived pretty quickly. They took statements from everyone involved. I told them exactly what happened, and so did the woman who got hit. Karen kept trying to paint herself as the victim, but nobody was buying it. The police ended up taking both Karen and the injured woman to the station, Karen in handcuffs, still trying to argue her way out of it, and the other woman to formally press charges. Later I found out that Karen got charged with assault and had to pay a hefty fine, plus the medical bills for the woman she hit. Apparently this wasn't her first run-in with the law over her entitled behavior, but it was definitely the most expensive one. I've always been big for my age. When I was 14, I was already 5'10" and 180 pounds, mostly muscle. I won't get into why, but I also had to grow up fast and act more mature than other kids my age. This sometimes caused confusion with adults who couldn't believe I wasn't older. That summer, I was volunteering as a coach at a baseball camp run by our state's Major League Baseball team. It was a pretty prestigious camp. Parents paid $500 for their kids to attend. We coaches wore authentic-looking jerseys that were nearly identical to what the real team wore, complete with baseball pants and belts. We looked professional. The camp ran for 5 days. We spent 4 days at a minor league stadium in the county, and on the last day, we'd take the kids to the Major League Stadium for a tour and to meet one of the players. It was always exciting for the kids. On the day we went to the big stadium, I was assigned to the youngest group, kids between 4 and 6 years old. We were just getting off the buses when this woman approached me with her son, who looked about 6. She asked me what was going on here, and I explained that this was a baseball academy run by the team. She seemed confused and demanded to know why we weren't practicing instead. I tried to explain that part of the camp involved giving the kids a tour of the stadium and meeting a team member, but she wouldn't listen. Instead, she insisted that these must be the children of the team players. She demanded that I take her child with us and introduce him to his favorite player's kid. She was convinced that some of these children must be related to the players. I attempted to clarify again that this was just a baseball camp and that we were only meeting one player, whose identity we didn't even know yet. She latched on to this information, asking if it might be her son's favorite player. I admitted it was possible but unlikely, explaining that the big names rarely did these events. She then demanded that I take her kid with us, assuming I ran the camp. When I explained that I was just a team leader, She refused to believe it, claiming she knew the camp didn't allow adults to be team leaders. I pointed out that this wasn't an issue since I wasn't an adult. This really set her off. She accused me of lying, insisting I must be at least 21, and even suggested my water bottle probably contained beer. I'd seen photos of myself from that time. I definitely didn't look 21. I told her that I was only 14 and explained that I wouldn't let her child join us because other parents had paid good money for this experience. I also pointed out that her inability to understand plain English wasn't a valid reason to give her child free access to the camp. I decided to get the camp leader involved because I was worried she'd pull the classic Karen move and claim I had assaulted her or something. After that, we took the kids inside for their tour. They had a blast. But when we came out, Karen was waiting, and this time she had backup. Her husband was there, matching my height, but much skinnier. He confronted me, claiming I had threatened his wife and demanding that I either pay for her therapy or he'd make me pay somehow. I was too exhausted to deal with this nonsense. I asked my friend, another coach, to help get the kids on the bus while I handled this situation. He understood immediately and took over for me. But the story doesn't end there. The next day at camp, guess who showed up? Karen had actually tracked me down. Since we wore name tags and I have a unique name, she'd called the camp organizer and fed him some story about how I'd worked with her kid at another camp, and her son wanted to say hi to me. That was the last straw. I went straight to security at the minor league stadium and reported everything. They took immediate action. Karen was banned from the stadium, and her kid was banned from ever attending the camp. I've been going to this fitness center for about 2 years now. After my doctor warned me about my rising blood pressure and cholesterol levels, I knew I had to make some changes in my life. I tried running, but my knees couldn't take it. Swimming wasn't my thing either. I never quite got the breathing technique right. Then my co-worker suggested I try Zumba classes. At first, I was hesitant. Dancing in front of others? Not really my cup of tea. But I decided to give it a shot, and honestly, it changed my life. The trainer is this amazing guy who's been teaching there for 5 years. He always makes sure everyone feels comfortable, regardless of their fitness level. Some of us are pretty fit, others are just starting their fitness journey, but he's got this way of making the class work for everyone. I try to attend at least once or twice every week, and I've never had any issues. Well, until today. I was in my usual spot, third row from the front, when this woman walked in. You know the type, yoga pants squeezed on like they're painted on, a top so cropped it barely qualified as clothing, and for some reason, a bow on her head like she was headed to a children's party instead of a workout class. She walked right to the front and planted herself directly in front of me. The warm-up hadn't even finished when I noticed her shirt was already soaked through with sweat. That's when the trouble started. As soon as the second song began, she suddenly started yelling at the trainer to slow down the class. The trainer looked startled, as nobody had ever interrupted the class like this before. He tried to be understanding and explained that these were already simplified versions of the moves, offering to show her some alternatives that might work better for her. But that wasn't good enough for her. She loudly refused his suggestions. Just as the trainer was trying to restart the class, she stormed over to his station and yanked the speaker's cables, causing his phone to crash to the floor. She then started screaming about being disrespected and how dare he ignore what she was asking for. The commotion brought our manager running in. He tried to calm things down at first, politely asking her to step outside to discuss the matter. She refused, demanding that the instructor be fired and calling him incompetent. That's when I saw the manager's professional demeanor crack. He told her she needed to leave the premises. What happened next was like something out of a reality TV show. She actually slapped the manager across the face. She started yelling about how we should know who she is, to which the manager coldly responded that he didn't care and demanded she leave immediately. That's when my friend, who's always been quick thinking, grabbed Karen's purse and sprinted out the door. Karen, red-faced and still yelling, chased after her. It was almost comical watching her try to run in those too tight pants, panting and struggling to keep up. My friend later told me she ran until she found a safe spot threw the purse where Karen could see it, and then circled back to the fitness center. By the time she returned, the manager was already telling us that Karen was permanently banned from the establishment. We finished our class after that, though everyone was still buzzing about what happened. The trainer apologized for the disruption, but honestly, none of us blamed him. If anything, watching Karen huff and puff while chasing my friend made for a better cardio show than any workout routine could have provided. I found out later that she'd only bought her membership the day before. She must have thought her new membership gave her the right to dictate how classes should be run. Well, that turned out to be the most expensive one-day membership in fitness center history. The whole thing was surreal. I mean, who crashes a Zumba class and demands it be changed to their personal preferences? The funny thing is, if she just stuck with it instead of throwing a tantrum, she might have actually gotten a decent workout. Instead, she got a lifetime ban and a good cardio session chasing her purse down the street. This all started with someone I considered a close friend for 10 years. Let's just call him my ex-friend. We used to share our PlayStation accounts to split the cost of games, which seemed like a great idea at the time. A new game costs around $70, so sharing meant we each only paid $35. Well, things started going south when I began dating this girl I'd had a crush on since high school. Everything was perfect until my ex-friend decided to spread lies about me to her best friend. He told people I had no friends and everyone only hung out with me out of pity. Complete nonsense, but the damage was done, and that relationship ended. When I confronted him about it, he acted like a complete child. I asked him what his problem was and why he was spreading lies about me. Instead of giving me a proper answer, he just mocked me by repeating everything I said in a silly voice. When I reminded him that we'd been friends for 10 years, he just dismissively told me to cry him a river. I blocked him everywhere after that. He had a drinking problem, 2 beers, and he'd turned into the most obnoxious person imaginable. Not inviting him to gatherings meant we wouldn't have to deal with that anymore. But he wasn't done. He started spreading rumors that I was stalking his girlfriend and other ridiculous lies. I tried ignoring it, but then one morning I woke up to find that I had quit several PlayStation chat groups and accepted a friend request from his account, which I had blocked. That's when it hit me. He still had access to my PlayStation account. He logged in, sent inappropriate messages, then reported them from his account. Sony banned me for 2 days, then a week, then a month, and finally, permanently. We're talking about losing access to over 400 games worth around $10,000. I called Sony and explained the situation. After 3 weeks, they confirmed it was an irregular login and unbanned me. But my ex-friend wasn't done. He created a fake account, pretending to be some random player who needed help with Dark Souls 3. Through messages, he claimed we had met on Warframe before and asked if I could help him. When I agreed, he asked about my thoughts on the DLC. I simply replied that it was dope, but pretty hard. That was all it took. He reported that message, and Sony banned me again. This time, they wouldn't listen to my explanations. I was furious. This guy had stolen thousands of dollars worth of games from me for no reason. I wanted revenge but couldn't find him during lockdown. Then something interesting happened. He broke up with his girlfriend and she reached out to me. She messaged me saying she'd heard I was looking for him and wanted to help. When I asked if she still had access to his PlayStation account, she confirmed she did and suggested we get even. At 2 a.m. that night, we put our plan into action. I gathered some gaming friends and his ex-girlfriend logged into his account. We spent 2 hours sending the most inappropriate messages possible from his account. Just pure degeneracy. Then we reported everything. His account got permanently banned. All 300 plus games gone. 2 months later, Sony finally reviewed my case properly and realized their mistake. They unbanned my account, giving me access to all my games again. So now I have everything back, and he lost all his games forever. He tried to take everything from me and ended up losing everything himself. His ex-girlfriend told me later that when he discovered his account was banned, he threw such a tantrum that his new girlfriend, he got one just 4 days after the breakup, broke up with him too. Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy.